Welcome to the Diva T-Town. Welcome to the Diva T-Town, where bold, confident women embrace life unapologetically. From love and sex to wellness and reinvention, we keep it raw, real, and powerful. No filters, no limits. Just fearless conversations to help you thrive. Let's dive in with Diva Mia.
Hello, this is Diva Mia. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something that hits really close to home. I know I've been away for a couple weeks, and I apologize, but I had some major health issues. Something that is impacting a lot of us as we get into our 50s and our 60s is once in a while, we have a health issue or a health scare that comes out of nowhere. Although I'm a firm believer, nothing comes out of nowhere, and it will knock you on your butt. It will take over every aspect of your life. When you have a health issue, you only have one issue, and that's your health. Everything else gets pushed back to the back burner. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about something personal to me and my health issue, how to self-advocate when you get into a medical situation that a lot of us are or our loved ones are, and how we need to take care of ourselves as well as listen to our doctor, but at the same time advocate for ourselves so we don't get run over and ignored. The average adult now sees the doctor more often than they see most of their extended family. Most people are terrified to question them. I think a lot of times some doctors have a God complex, or we look at them as if they are all-knowing. I'm sorry. It's called practicing medicine for a reason. They're practicing. They don't know it all. They may come across as if they know it all, and they may tell you that you have to do this or you have to do that. I experienced that recently. They tried to railroad me. You need to learn to stand up for yourself, and you need to learn to stand up for your family. Because if you don't, when you know you're right, they may guide you down the wrong path. Just like that friend that says they know how to sell your house even though they've never sold one, or they sold one time and they tell you to go against your realtor's advice and they may lead you down the wrong path. Or, a dentist that says a tooth needs to get pulled and all of a sudden now it doesn't anymore. There are things that happen in medicine. There's things that happen in life and no one knows it all. And that's why today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do self-advocacy for yourself, how to research information yourself, and how to be really informed about your health. Because the more informed you are, the more you can stand up for yourself. And learning how to advocate yourself in the medical system is so crucial because as we get older, we're going to have more and more doctor's visits, emergency visits, surgeries, etc. It just happens. Things come up. Some things are unexpected. Some things are planned. But nonetheless, you still need to be able to advocate for yourself. So recently, I went through navigating doctors and hospitals, and I did not blindly trust them. I know they're a medical authority, but I understand my own body, and they don't. And without them understanding my body, it can be dangerous for me because I have a rare autoimmune condition. We need to talk about how healthcare is focused on the majority, not the minority. Each of us is unique. Artificial intelligence is one of the things that helped me, and it's become a smarter advocate for our health than I think than a lot of, friends or family members. They all are, by the way, they all are looking out for your best interest. I'm more of a fact-based person. If I can get the data and understand the data, I will go that direction. I don't want to go off of someone's opinion just because of their Aunt Sally did this or their Uncle Bert did that. I'm not into that. So healthcare is very complicated. And doctors they're amazing professionals and they're very good, but they're also overworked. A lot of times they're rushed. They have to deal with insurance systems. There's a profit margin they have to hit, and they see dozens of patients per day. And most of the appointments are only 10 to 15 minutes. If you're going to even to your primary and you're talking to them for 10 minutes, they're not going to know everything about you. You may forget to tell them some things as well. So sometimes you are the only person who has the full picture of your health. And if you go to an ER, an emergency room, you're the only person that knows your history in detail. And you live in your body 24 hours a day, not just 10 minutes, which is what the doctor sees you. Now, they can read tests and they can read labs, but there's a gap, and that gap needs to be filled by self-advocacy. It's essential. It's not an option if you want to live long and have longevity. Doctors should be a partner in the healthcare system. Just like if you have a real estate professional and they advise you not to buy a house or they advise you to buy a house, You have to make the final say. Just like if a doctor says you need a surgery or you don't need a surgery, you get to make the final say. Now, there are times when there's emergency things that, you have to need or you really need to go and do. But a lot of times, if they can't explain to you why you have to do it right now, then you may need to question their authority. Some doctors will educate their patients very well. I did deal with a couple doctors that were very educational and took my questions and answered them thoroughly. And when I had points, they listened. I had other doctors, no offense, that were trying to mansplain to me and treat me like I was clueless when, quite frankly, I know way more about my autoimmune than he does because I've been living with it for 3 years. I'm an expert. He's not. He probably researched it once 20 years ago. In college, he didn't even know that the name had been updated 5 years ago. So I'm more of an expert at my autoimmune than he is, and I can read the labs probably better than he does. And that's why you have to advocate for yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of doctors have large egos, and I ran into one of those doctors at the emergency room. It's kind of like a medical God complex. They think they are the end-all, be-all, and they know it all. The reality is they don't. You need to advocate for yourself. They are not gods. They may have a large ego, and you're probably going to step on it a little bit, even if you try not to. But I tried not to in the very beginning, and then he kept mansplaining and trying to force me into doing something, and I just said no. Then I told him why. And then he left. And he told me to stop researching online and stop Googling. And I said, well, somebody's got to advocate for myself. And that kind of upset him. He says, well, the doctors here and the nurses are looking out for your best interests. I go, well, somebody's got to advocate for me. And that's what I was doing. It doesn't mean that he's a bad doctor. It just means that I'm not prepared to listen to his advice when I have things that are telling me quite the opposite of what he's telling me. And you've got to be prepared to advocate for yourself, but do it respectfully. There are times that they may get upset, but it was his ego getting upset, not anything. I was never mean. I was never callous. I just specifically said I need to advocate for myself. And I was clear. Never swore at him, never got angry. I was just very clear. So what I recently went through, it was a pretty serious medical event. It involved my liver, my gallbladder, and my pancreas. And I have an autoimmune that affects my liver. I ended up needing to have a duct cleared. And they did an MRI of my gallbladder, and my gallbladder looked a little inflamed, but not too bad, with a few stones in it. They decided that, or they said I needed to have my gallbladder out. I said, why? They go, well, it's a simple procedure, and it's just preventative. For me, to take out an organ as an idea of prevention is not what I'm looking for. Because I have an autoimmune related to my liver, I don't want to remove something that's very close to my liver that is going to impact it down the road. Plus, it might push me into a liver transplant way before my time. So I said, unless you can show me why my gallbladder needs removed, I'm not going to do it. Well, I had an obstruction in a duct, but that was the main problem. My gallbladder was actually still in good shape. It actually showed up as normal on the MRI. One of the doctors kept trying to push me to have gallbladder surgery. I said no, and they wanted to do the gallbladder surgery first. They kept saying no, and I kept saying no, and he got a little angry with me. And I had to stay in the hospital. I had a lot of tests run, and they were supposed to operate on me Monday for removing the blockage in one of my ducts, but they had some issues with the emergency room. One of the other things was they didn't tell me the ER was down. They just kept saying, oh, we don't know what time we're going to schedule you. Oh, we don't know what time you're going to schedule you. And I was like, guys, I'm in a lot of pain here. Can we figure out when we're going to have the surgery? And then they finally fessed up to it, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that the ER was down because they had a boiler problem. It would have been nice to know in the morning because I could have gotten transferred to another hospital. They did try to transfer me later in the day, but it was too late. So I ended up having what's called ERCP, where they actually remove a blockage in your duct, and they did a really good job. I got a lot of stuff cleared out, and then it ended up triggering pancreatitis because that's a side effect of the procedure. And since I'm extra sensitive, I tend to get a lot of side effects. Then I had to deal with pancreatitis. As soon as the pancreatitis hit, that doctor that was trying to push me to have my gallbladder out just assumed it was my gallbladder again. I had already uploaded all of my information into ChatGPT and was researching extensively. He kept saying it's your gallbladder. I go, it's not my gallbladder. All signs are pointing to pancreatitis. Pancreatitis was an option that it could have happened. About 10% of people that have ERCP may get pancreatitis, but it's a much higher percentage, close to 50%, if you have an autoimmune like I do. They ended up putting me on some massive pain meds, which I was only on for a day and a half because I don't like pain meds. I got off as quickly as I could, but I had to deal with a lot of extra pain. The doctor that performed the ERCP was wonderful. He was very apologetic that it happened. And I don't think it could have been avoided. And sometimes it does happen. But he did a great job explaining it. And he was not pushing for my gallbladder out. Besides, if you have pancreatitis, no doctor in their right mind would operate on a gallbladder. But that other doctor, he was a general, he was the one that did rounds, the general doctor, and he just kept pushing. And I said, look, I'm not having my gallbladder out. You can stop asking. Besides, I have pancreatitis, and you shouldn't be operating on a gallbladder if you have pancreatitis. He goes, well, we'll see what the tests come back as. The test came back, and it showed pancreatitis. I had to strongly and forcefully push back on the doctor because doctors don't know everything. Sometimes they don't see the full picture because they're blinded by what they're used to seeing. And I know everybody's getting their gallbladders out lately. I mean, it's like everybody's lining them up, getting their gallbladders out. I think it's an important organ. And I think every organ in the body is important. I don't think you should just be taking them out willy-nilly unless you have to. I don't care if some people says it's preventative. It wasn't preventative for me. And I do realize I could get another blockage and I have to go back in, but that's what it is. It showed normal. And because of that, some doctors, they think they know it all and they may miss those rare conditions like I had because now that I've had that surgery, I feel amazing. My gallbladder's still there. I kept it in. The ERCP seems to have removed all the problems that I have, but it's only because I stood up for myself. And I had to do it by myself. There was no one with me. And I advocated for myself. Now, I do have a friend that's a nurse, and she said, well, what does your doctor say? And I kept saying, well, my doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. And he didn't. He doesn't specialize in it. Because what I have only happens once every 100,000 people. He probably never sees it. And so my specialist understood what was going on. My GI doctor understood what was going, but they really wanted to pull out my gallbladder. Now, I'm sure there's a profit margin there somewhere because those gallbladders, it's a very simple surgery and they charge $10,000 to $20,000 to pull those out. But I don't think you should take it out unless you really need to. So I held onto my gallbladder, and if I had not asked questions and done research and pushed for those answers, I think my outcome would have been very different. And I really liked the fact that I had one doctor, Indian doctor, that was very good bedside manner. He kept explaining in detail. When I asked questions, he gave me the semi-medical, not the full medical term, but exactly what was going on. He gave good explanations. I actually liked him. The other one just had his ideas of what I should be doing and was mad because I didn't do it. You really need to stand up for yourself because silence in healthcare can be dangerous. If you don't ask questions and you don't speak up, bad things can happen. Things can happen to you that you didn't realize that shouldn't have been done. Sometimes you'll have side effects. Then when I had the pancreatitis, I did the research on what pain meds I needed to be on for pancreatitis because they were putting me on a pain med that was too light, and pancreatitis is extremely painful. Once I got my pain meds managed for a day and a half, I was great. Things got fixed, but you're going to have to stand up for yourself, okay? And you're going to have to advocate for your health. It's not just respectful, it's responsible. You have to advocate for you because if you don't, no one else is going to. Medicine is evolving, I think, and it's constantly evolving, and things keep changing too. Sometimes what a doctor went to school for, he may have understood that this is how they treated before, but now there's a whole new pathway to treatment. What was standard practice 10 years ago? So if they've been out of school for more than a couple of years, 10 years ago, it's maybe not even be active anymore today. And if you have a unique situation, they may have no idea. And doctors do specialize. A liver doctor may not deeply understand an autoimmune disease, and an autoimmune doctor may not understand other things. An ER doctor may not recognize any metabolic conditions. He may not understand that because he's used to treating emergency situations. Rare conditions are often misunderstood. Quite frankly, we're all a little rare, if you ask me. We all have a little bit of uniqueness to us, and some doctors only see certain diseases once or twice in their entire career, and I think mine was probably one of those. He didn't understand the complications of pulling out my gallbladder for me, but for him, it was a simple surgery, and I agree, it's a simple surgery, but it's the lifelong results of that surgery that I have to deal with, that I have to be subject to, and that it could push me into other future surgeries. It can push me into cascade organ problems, and I didn't want to have to deal with that if I didn't need to. Sometimes, most of us are knowledgeable people about our conditions and may even be more knowledgeable than the doctors, especially if they're just a general doctor and they don't have our specialty in mind. Your doctor is the expert on medicine. You are the expert on your body. So remember that you have to work together, the two of you and your doctor, to come up with a solution. I think AI is going to change patient advocacy forever. And this is where it gets really interesting because artificial intelligence is becoming such a powerful tool for patients. And if you have any type of medical condition, I do encourage you to load your test results into AI, tell them which diet you're on, tell them what supplements you're on, tell them what pharmaceuticals you're on, ask them for its input. Here's the other thing is there's a lot of people out there on 5, 10 different pharmaceuticals all at the same time and seeing multiple different doctors. It's nice to just do a gut check and say, hey, AI, I'm on all these different pharmaceuticals. Are any of these going to have interaction issues? Because not all doctors realize all the medicines you're on and know all the different interactions. AI can help with interpreting blood work trends. So every time I got my blood work back, at least twice the first day and then every day after that, I uploaded my blood work into AI. And then it helped me interpret the trends. And then it also helped explain the lab results. Now, I knew a lot of the lab results, but it went into more detail and gave me expectations on where my lab work should be trending if the surgery went well. And then it helped me compare across different medical research options, too. So it gave me a detailed information about what was going on. And it also suggested questions that I could ask the doctor to see what the doctor thought about certain things or certain processes. It didn't replace the doctor. So here's the thing. I think a lot of doctors are threatened by the internet and threatened by AI. It's not replacing them. It's just letting us ask smarter questions so that we are more informed patients. One of the doctors was very happy with that. He was not a very egotistical doctor. He was a very informed doctor. And he liked the fact that I was asking questions. And that I was very knowledgeable about what I have because I have to be, because it's my body. I do my own blood work every month, sometimes every 2 weeks if I'm doing a lot of changes to any supplements I'm doing. And so every month I get blood work and I'm tracking it. And so I knew when my numbers, when my bilirubin went from 2.5 to 10, that was not a normal gallbladder issue. There was something going on with an obstruction. Before they even did the MRI, I knew I had an obstruction. And I said I wanted to keep my gallbladder if at all possible, but one doctor just kept pushing and pushing, and I had to overly advocate for myself. AI doesn't replace the doctor, but it makes you much more informed so that when you have to push back, you have information to push back with. You don't sound like you're just doing it out of emotion. I was completely doing it fact-based. I was completely doing it data-driven. I was completely doing it based off my numbers, based off my symptoms, based off of what was going on. There was no emotion there. I wasn't angry. I could do it in a very intellectual, informed way. A lot of the different doctors have apps. And when you go to a hospital, you should download the app because you can check your results from your tests. You can check your results from your blood work. Any imaging, pathology, procedural notes, all of that stuff is in an app that you get when you go to any doctor or hospital. You legally have the right to them. If you don't have the app or you're not really good with phones, you can ask them for physical copies. You legally have the right to everything they test with you. Take a snapshot of it. If you have it on the app, just download it and re-upload it into the app. So you have the ability to integrate AI. You have the ability to integrate just looking up your own documents. It is a lot more work, I will say, if you don't upload it into ChatGPT or one of the other AIs out there and do the manual work, because then you're looking at test result by test result. I like the fact that I could upload the entire test result. It would scan through and say, oh, well, if you've been on regular saline for too long and your chloride is up, that's a common thing. Things like that were informative. Okay. So I was like, why is my chloride level so high? That was because I was on normal saline for a really long time. Then the other thing is they pumped about 60 pounds worth of fluid through me in 6 days. I gained about 20 pounds, even though I didn't eat anything for those 6 days in the hospital because at first I was on every day they thought I was going to have the surgery. And then it ended up that afterwards I had pancreatitis, so I can't really eat. So I gained a lot of fluid weight, which then I talked to ChatGPT and it says, okay, well, for every day you're in the hospital, it's going to take about two days for the fluids to come off. So then I was like, okay, I got 10 to 12 days of just fluid retention loss, which is good because then it didn't bother me so much. AI is a tool to kind of put your mind at ease. And then I would say, is this a normal side effect? Is this a normal symptom? And it helped me evaluate my condition in a way that I think when you go to a hospital and you're laying in bed and you're all by yourself and something happens, you feel something, or you're not feeling well and you ring the door, and she's like, okay, I'll be right there. And then 5 minutes later, they show up. They ask for your symptoms. Okay, I'll send that off to the doctor. You could wait a half hour or an hour or two before you find out the results. Whereas if I had the ability to look it up right away, it might put my nerves to rest because now I can say, okay, it's just a typical side effect, or this is happening because of this. At least then I could also say, maybe they should alert the doctor right away because it looks like it's a serious problem. Or if it feels like normal, you could say, okay, I'm going to let them know. They've been notified. They can take whatever time they need to, but at least I know what steps I need to take. For instance, I needed to walk more to help get the fluid down. That's one thing that was recommended by the AI as well as the nurses. And the nurses I said, how much? They go, just as much as you can. And AI said, walk 15 minutes every hour and just do as much as you can. And so it gave me more of an analytical approach to my recovery. You can also copy and paste lab results if you have it in an email, CT scans, MRI findings, and then ask questions of the AI. Say, what does this mean in layman's terms or simple language, these test results, the blood work? Why is this number so high? And what conditions can cause these abnormalities? You have a gut check. If they come in and say you need your gallbladder out when your gallbladder is showing normal, you have a gut check. You have a secondary gut check. And then I said, well, I asked it, why do the doctors recommend my gallbladder come out when it shows as normal? Then it said, because a lot of times it's preventative. Then I asked that question, are you wanting to take it out just for prevention? They said yes. Before that, they were acting like I needed to have it. Then I asked why, and then they said it's because of prevention. For that, I didn't want it prevention. I am here to heal myself fully. I'm doing that. Granted, in the future, I may still have to have it out, and I understand that, but it's not in the condition that it has to come out right now. It was more important to get the blockage out as far as I was concerned. Then you can also say, what additional tests might we consider if this test shows that I have a blockage? Can we do any other tests, or do we need to go straight for surgery? You can find out different types of things. Now, I ended up having surgery, and that's okay. I'm not afraid of surgery. I was just not wanting unnecessary medical procedures if I didn't have to have them. And then look for patterns, too. AI is great for looking at patterns, I think better than humans, honestly. It looks at the symptoms, it grabs the labs, and it can look at the trends over time. Doctors do as well, don't get me wrong. However, AI does it so quick, and it's so powerful, especially if you have a rare disease. I think doctors can look at an EKG and say, yes, you had a heart attack, and we've got to do something about it, and you got to go along with that, or maybe they got to get a stent put in. I get that. But if you have a rare autoimmune condition or a rare disease that is not common, AI has the ability to look at the trends in your data and your labs and all your medical symptoms. It can put together those trends and offer suggestions the doctor may not realize. I think this is amazing because going forward, I think doctors really need to embrace AI because right now their patients are. And their patients are starting to advocate for themselves. And instead of them feeling threatened by our knowledge, maybe they could look at it as a way to inform themselves as well. AI should never replace a medical professional, though. I'm not saying that in any way. But it acts like a research assistant for us, so we can ask better questions, so we can be better informed. It's like an extra brain or having your own specialist that you're bringing to appointments with you to go talk to your doctor. So remember, you can push back, but let's do it respectfully. When you advocate for yourself, it doesn't mean being confrontational, but it does mean be direct. You do not have to be a pushover. Doctors respond best by curiosity. Ask questions with the statement, if that makes sense. You're saying, oh, wow, my bilirubin is high. I see that. Is there something I need to be doing quickly? That would be the most important thing to focus on in order to bring it down. Instead of saying you're wrong, try saying, I read somewhere, and I always say, I looked up online, and they got mad about that, but I looked up and I wanted your opinion because it says that my lipase, can you do a lipase test? Because all the symptoms are pointing to pancreatitis because the doctor just wanted to take out my gallbladder. He didn't want to do a lipase test. Lipase is what I needed to do in order to look at my pancreas numbers. I asked for that test. It got done, and then it was very clear that I had pancreatitis. It was good for me to know what tests to even order because at the time, the doctor was just wanting to go full force to take out my gallbladder. None of the symptoms were gallbladder related. Then it was like, can we also look at this option? If it comes back that my lipase is up, can we also explore maybe getting me on pain meds that work for pancreatitis? Then you can also say, once you get your lab results, are there any other tests that need to be done to rule out that it could be this or is not that? Just keep the conversation collaborative and curious. If you do that, the doctor's egos shouldn't be as involved, although some doctors will. I can't say for all. And some doctors, I will tell you, That guy that was mansplaining to me, I don't know why he thought he was just so much more superior than me, because I was very honest. I was not mean. And the other doctors, all the other doctors were fine. It was just this one man that just had this huge ego and just wanted to keep pushing. It kept proving him wrong every time he said something, because he kept saying, you have to do this. I go, well, why can't we do this? Can't we just go get a lipase test and check? He ordered it and he saw that he was incorrect by pushing some things. So just be an advocate for yourself, be informed, but always stay calm. Don't make it emotional. If you get emotional in a hospital, things can spiral. I was there and I saw this woman throwing a fit at the nurses and screaming at them because she hadn't gotten her food. I was thinking to myself, lady, I didn't eat for 6 days and I didn't want to scream at the nurses. Don't scream at people, and just advocate, be calm. Bring documentation. If you know you're going into the hospital and you have an autoimmune that's unique or some type of disease, bring your documentation with you. Put it in a binder. Have that binder. And then listen to the doctor's reasoning and then do your own research, because you need to advocate for yourself. And you may be the one that has to advocate for loved ones as well, because this is especially true when you have elderly parents or sick children or just a sick partner. And what's happening is we need to start helping them advocate for themselves. If you're in this position, you may be the information organizer. You may put together binders. You may keep all their medications, their diagnosis, their lab results. Keep it all together. Now, my lab results, I don't keep them paper-wise anymore because it's about 2,000 pages. But I keep mine electronically now. And the nice thing is when they're electronically, you can also, a lot of the different apps have trends, so you can see trends over timelines. So hospitals want to move quickly on problems. So when I went to the ER, I was pretty much admitted within an hour of my lab results coming back from the ER. Be prepared to advocate for yourself, because changes happen quickly and you may be pushed into things, and it may be an emergency that you have to get something done. Quickly research if you can, or for your loved ones, research. Honestly, the best medical outcome happens when 3 things work together: knowledgeable doctors, very informed agents, and then intelligent tools like AI or Google, and just do your own research. Your health is too important to leave entirely up to someone else, especially someone else that doesn't know you, because when you go to the emergency rooms, they don't know your history. They don't know your story. But learn to ask questions and learn to be respectful at the same time, because as you advocate for yourself or someone you love, you can't be afraid. You have to be direct, but at the same time respectful. Doctors, they save lives every day. Nurses are there and they're great helps. Some of the nurses were wonderful. Some of the nurses are afraid of the doctors, though, I will say. They have to work with those people every day. They have to collaborate. You're not really going to get someone to go against a doctor, I will say, if you're talking to a nurse. But you can ask the nurse questions and they can relay them to the doctor, because a lot of times you're only seeing the nurse most of the day. Doctors only come in once or twice a day. So advocate for yourself. Be informed, be engaged, and be unafraid. Be unafraid to speak your mind. Be unafraid to ask questions, and realize that you are your best advocate. You will always be your best advocate. And no one is better than you. So I hope this helped for anybody out there taking care of people or taking care of yourself, or if you come into a medical emergency yourself, realize you have the right to question things and do your own research and advocate for yourself, because a lot of times there might even be better things out there that are coming down the pipeline. This is Diva Mia. Hopefully this helped. This is not medical advice. This is a way to help you educate yourself when you're having a medical condition. This is Diva Mia signing off. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I wish you all the best health in the world, and I wish you long life and love. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing from you. Visit thedivadetails.com to connect. See you next week for more.
Diva Details podcast and website are intended solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The content provided does not constitute professional, medical, financial, or legal advice. We are not licensed medical practitioners, financial advisors, or legal professionals. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Any financial topics discussed are based on personal opinions and experience and should not be considered professional advice. The content provided does not constitute legal advice. Diva Details and its affiliate contributors and guests are not liable for any losses or damages arising from the use of our content. The opinions expressed in the podcast are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organization, sponsors, or partner. All facts discussed in the podcast are researched and accurate to the best of our knowledge at the time of recording. Information may change over time. No guarantees are made regarding the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements or opinions presented. It is the responsibility of the listener to verify any and all facts that may influence their decision. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.